All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, it is the Friday episode of the Let's Ride podcast, and you know what that means. First segment, it's Behind Enemy Lines, where I talk about with someone that covers the upcoming opponent, in this case, Week 13, Acrisure Stadium, Pittsburgh Steelers, Arizona Cardinals. There is a lot of history between these two teams, mainly dating back to Super Bowl 43. I'm sure we'll probably bring that up. Steeler fans love to talk about that one. Unlike when we talked to the Green Bay Packers a few weeks ago in Super Bowl 45. But I welcome the host of the Cardinals Update podcast here on Fans First Sports Network, our Arizona Cardinals feed, Jesus Garcia. Jesus, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Everything's going good, man. Hopefully we get a better outcome than what we did last week. But, just looking forward to the road up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, for sure. And so when I think about the Cardinals, this is an NFC West opponent, so Steelers don't play them too often. There have been some memorable moments. I can remember a very young Kyler Murray when the Steelers went out to Arizona 4 years ago. I mentioned Super Bowl 43. There are some connections here, but there's also another connection. Earlier this season, you had Joshua Dobbs as your quarterback before trading him to the Minnesota Vikings. Let's start there, not necessarily with Joshua Dobbs, but with the quarterback position. Very much in flux. Kyler Murray comes back off injured reserve. And now he's back in the lineup. What have you seen from Kyler Murray since he's come back? Obviously had to have the reconstructive knee surgery this past offseason. What's he been like? Good, bad, and different?
He's been really up and down, really inconsistent for the most part. The first week back against the Falcons, everything looked solid, right? It looked like a great first game back. Athletically, everything's looking perfect for him. Him running around in the pocket, him extending plays, him, rushing, flying by people and stuff like that. He's looking like every part of the old Kyler Murray that we knew. The only thing that's been kind of up and down is like the passing game with him. So, against the Falcons, everything was looking solid, kind of a little bit of rust. And then, the week afterwards against the Texans, it did look like he had more rust and just looked like he was just a little more off. And then, last week against the Rams, it was difficult to see just because we had such a poor offensive outing. And a lot of that had to do, I would say a big part of that would be, Kyler Murray's accuracy right now. And also just with the play calling and just, the offensive line, guys are getting injured left and right. And also with our receiving core. So just everything altogether just isn't a good mix at the moment. But just with Kyler Murray, his knee athletically, just everything's going fine. It's just, hoping to get back to him being, accurate. Throughout his career, he's been above 65% accuracy wise. And just these past couple of weeks, it's just been just not even close to that.
Well, when I think of Kyler Murray, the one thing I think of is mobility. His ability to get out of the pocket, to be a threat to run, to make plays with his legs doesn't mean he's not going to throw the football on the run, but to use his athleticism to escape the pocket. I always am concerned, not so much concerned, but I am also looking at a player coming off of knee surgery. Do they still trust that athleticism? Is he more of a pocket passer now? Is he trusting his legs to be able to use all those explosive moves, lateral quickness that we've seen from Kyler Murray all the time? Where exactly has he been since his return from that surgery in terms of athletically and using his mobility?
I think he hasn't taken a step back. I think everything's been like athletic wise, been perfect with his knee. I think that's just a credit to how long they've taken and just like they waited until he was 100%, mentally and physically with the knee for him to get back practicing and then eventually get back on the field. So I think like he probably could have been playing, week 4 or 5 if they really just wanted him out there just playing on the field. But they took until week 11 for him to come back. They gave him 3-4 weeks, on that designated to return from the PUP list. They gave him kind of like a mini training camp there, and then he's been looking great athletic wise. Against the Falcons, he had that in the fourth quarter. He had I think it was almost like 50-60 yard scramble, but he went back 20-30 yards and then scrambled forward another 20 yards just to get a first down, and just everything looked great. It looked like how probably just even faster than what he is before he got injured, kind of like how he was in Oklahoma. He just looked really super fast, and just just didn't look like he had injury. So that part, everything looked good. Just the accuracy wise, getting comfortable within the offense and just timing with his teammates is the only thing that's really just you kind of want more from him just because you've seen him be great like that before. That was one of the main things that he's been great at, is just the deep ball and just accuracy down the field, and especially just in short yardage situations. He's been great there. Just you just haven't really been able to see that now.
Well, that's one of my next follow-ups to any time the Steelers are going to play any quarterback that is a mobile quarterback. They see a lot of those. When you think about Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, obviously Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, do they run because they have to, or do they run because it's by design? And that's, I think, a really good question for this Arizona offensive line. How are they holding up in terms of Kyler Murray using his athleticism? You mentioned that crazy scramble in Atlanta. Is the offensive line basically not doing their job and he's having to run for his life? Or is this just him using his legs to buy more time? What are your thoughts on the O-line and the pass protection?
With the offensive line, it really depends. I feel like they're really inconsistent on a week to week basis. Our I would say from our right side of the O line, I think they're pretty consistent. So Will Hernandez, he's our right guard, and then Paris Johnson, he's our rookie right tackle. So both of them, they've been phenomenal, and just they've been being able to just pair up both of them two, and then just whenever we rush the right side, whenever anyone is rushing from the right side, it's just they don't really get that much pressure. And then also running that way too, we're always getting 5-6 yards a rush, so that's always great. Center has been up and down, so we have a new center, coming in from Cleveland, kind of following the offensive coordinator. So his name's Hajj Holt. So he's been pretty up and down. I think for the first month of the season, he was great. He looked like kind of like a diamond in the rough, kind of what we picked up in the off season. But recently he's been real up and down. We face Aaron Donald. No one's really great against Aaron Donald, but
Right.
he really just suffered in that game. With our left guard spot, it's really been like a turnstile. We've had Carter O'Donnell the past couple of weeks. We've had just different guys in and out of the left guard spot, and that's one of the weak points that's just been throughout the whole season. Just you had guys, just going in there every other week, just due to injury, due to just not playing great. And then at left tackle, DJ Humphries, he's been on the team. I think he's the longest tenured Cardinal so far on the team, and he's been just not as great as you would hope this year. In the offseason, they did move a bunch of his money, a bunch of his guaranteed money up to this year. And, next year is not really much guaranteed for him. So this year kind of seemed like a prove it year to see, if they do draft someone or if they do sign someone in free agency. But he hasn't really been showing that he's someone that's, that should be here to stay, especially covering that left side. So just as a whole, I think the offensive line has great moments, but for the most part, especially like the past month since Kyler's been back, they have been holding up well in the pocket. Is just after a while, a lot of things have been breaking down because of injury. So just they haven't been able to protect them as long as you would hope. But at the same time, I think Kyler sometimes scrambles away out of clean pockets, and that's something that I think I've mentioned, and think a lot of people on Cardinals Twitter also mentioned that Kyler should kind of stand, he's not the biggest guy, but kind of stand up in the pocket and try and deliver those deep shots when the pocket is there. And they do have, once in a while do create, probably like 4, 5, 6 seconds, give him time to throw. But just having injuries really hurts us, and then just Kyler just scrambling back and forth just really hurts us.
I can't not talk about the Cardinals and not talk about a player who used to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was beloved by the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base. The only thing that they didn't like about James Conner was that he was often injured and he just couldn't stay healthy. But when he was healthy, he was dynamic, he was explosive, and people in this town, because he went to Pitt and he's a local boy, so to speak. I mean, close, Erie. Anyways, how's he doing out there in Arizona? I know that he suffered a knee injury earlier this year, but is he back to full health? And how's he looking behind that offensive line you just broke down?
Yeah, he's looking great. Whenever he's available on the field, he looks amazing. He's the heart of this offense. However much he goes in this offense is how good we play, throughout the week. ever since he's been back, I think he got back the same week Kylie did. So week 11, he's been doing great. I feel like every time he rushes, even if the O-line breaks down, it just looks like there's nothing to be there. He always cranks out 3, 4, 5 yards and then
Yeah.
always, just falls forward for the extra yard. So just he's always just he's like the heart and the engine of this offense. And just it's always great to have him on the field. Like you said, it's just tough because every season it feels like he misses about like 4 or 5 games, and just sometimes it's either in chunks where he gets put on IR, or he misses a few games here and there just throughout the season. So
Yeah.
that's something that we hope we get him, just get him a complimentary back, just so he doesn't take 25, 30 touches a game. But then at the same time, he's such a great running back, he's such a big powerful running back too. You want to give him those 25, 30 touches a game, so just after a while he just he churns out 100-yard games just like of nothing. So he's been absolutely amazing, especially I think recent years in the pass game too. I feel like the first year he was here, it wasn't really like he wasn't really a pass catching back, but recently I think last year he really showed it, and then just this year, throughout whenever he's got an opportunity, he's been a great pass catching back too, which is amazing to see.
Yeah, he showed flashes of those skills in Pittsburgh, also good at picking up the blitz and things like that. So good to see that James Conner is doing well out there in the desert. I'm sure it'll be a good reunion for him coming back to the stadium where he played his college ball and seeing a lot of his former teammates and Coach Tomlin.
Yeah.
But I do have to ask you about the defense. We've just spent a lot of time on the offense, rightfully so. The defense for the Arizona Cardinals has struggled at times this season. What's the biggest weakness in your opinion, for the Arizona defense on a week in and week out basis?
It's really difficult to say, just because I mean, as a whole in the defense, we really just don't have talent pretty much anywhere outside of like our safety room. So we have Buda Baker, we have Jalen Thompson. I feel like both of them are elite, Pro Bowl level
Mhm.
safeties. And
Yeah.
I think they're like one of the best duos in the league. But just outside of that, our corners, they haven't been able to hold up. I think I'll probably say our corners and our defensive line are probably our two weakest links. So on corners, we have Marco Wilson. He's been up and down. He's been on this team for a couple of years, and he recently, it looked like he did get benched in the last game. So just having him benched, and then we have two rookies out there in Starling Thomas and Keitrell Clark, and corners are already difficult, position as it is, and then just putting two rookies out there, especially, one's I think he got drafted late round from I think the Eagles, and they cut him, and so he's on our team, and then Keitrell Clark, he's our 6th round pick too. So just two, late round guys, just rookies coming in and play cornerback is just a tall task for them. And then our defensive line, just we we don't have really names on the defensive line, and then they're all pretty much injured right now too. So we have, Kevin Strong, he has a shoulder injury. We'll see how he goes throughout the week. Lecky Fotu, he was put on IR recently, and we recently cut Ben Still. So just, our only defensive lineman that we have right now that, that you could probably notice would probably be Dante Stills. He's also a rookie. I think he's a 5th-round rookie out of West Virginia. So he's been kind of like our diamond in the rough too for our draft class. And then just, same thing with the corners. They haven't been able to cover anyone. Defensive line hasn't, outside of Dante Stills, hasn't been able to get, stopping the run, hasn't been able to get pressure, on the quarterbacks. I think our edge rushers, the room is pretty much crowded, but you don't really have, names. They rotate guys in and out. So you might see, a few series with Dennis Gardeck out there or Zaven Collins out there. And then you might, switch it with a Victor Dimukeji out there. So just a lot of guys that are kind of equal talent wise that just they rotate in and out. And then our linebackers too. We recently lost Kaiser White. He had a torn bicep. So just he's been out just recently they put him on IR, and he's done for the season. So just seeing how, another week of Josh Woods, and also seeing how he progresses, kind of taking over that role for him. So just as a whole, our defense just lacks a lot of talent. I mean, throughout this whole roster, we don't really have too many people that you could say, oh, he's like a guy that you have on the team that you could rely on week in and week out. And just especially in our defense, we don't really have just many of those guys.
Wow. Okay. You don't paint a pretty picture for the Arizona defense, but I get it. Hey, I think, hey, you're honest and I appreciate that. Let's finish this up though
Yeah.
with talking about how we see the game playing out. Now, some people that I've had on this podcast have said, I don't like doing the game prediction. And that's like with an actual score. That's fine. You can just tell me,
Hmm.
in other words, how you think it's going to go. Let me tell you what the spread is, though, currently. As the time of this recording, the Steelers are giving 5.5 points with a total of 41. So that's telling in and of itself. Steelers are a home team. How do you see this game shaking out? If you want to give me a score prediction, by all means, go ahead. But how do you see this playing?
Just how we looked last week and how we've been looking the past couple of weeks. It just really depends on how offensive wise, it just really depends on how Kyler Murray looks. If he's able to hit, a few shots, deep, if he's able to hit our tight end Trey McBride, if he's able to get him going, and then our offensive coordinator, if he's able to, just call a few plays like under center, a few plays in the shotgun, and just incorporating the pass and run. I think last week it was just tough to see, just because, like I said, James Conner, he's sort of like the engine that gets our offense going. And just after, I think, the first drive of the first quarter, it looked like they just abandoned the run completely. And he only had, I think, for the whole game, 6 carries throughout the whole game, which for James Conner, that's just like,
Yeah.
that you get that in the first quarter with him. And so just seeing that just abandon the run, you hope you get back to the run. I would honestly say, just how we're looking recently, I would probably say the Steelers are gonna win this game, and that's just because history. Whenever we've played the Steelers, it hasn't really been pretty. I think the last time we played them was Kyler's rookie year, and we were able to get the win. But I mean, even before that, I think most of the time, whenever we go on the road to Pittsburgh, we never come out with a win. I think most of the time, whenever we go to like the East Coast games, it never goes well for us.
Yeah.
Especially late in the season, how we are right now, it just doesn't go well. And then having TJ Watt out there too is just tough. Our O line is already down some guys, and then I am excited to see TJ Watt against Paris Johnson. Kind of seeing our rookie,
Yeah.
our 6th overall pick,
Mm-hmm.
kind of go against one of the best edge rushers in the game. So just seeing him out there, I hope to see a bunch of matchups with them one on one. If he goes against Paris, or if he goes on the other side against DJ Humphries, or whoever's out there on the left side. But yeah, ultimately, I think the offense, our offense is going to dictate, how well we are. But I think ultimately we'll lose the game, just because the lack of players, on defense, in terms of guys being injured, and just and then on defense, just guys being injured and just not having the talent available out there right now.
Well, in that case, I hope you're right in terms of the Steelers winning. But Jesus, I'm going to give you an opportunity to not only talk about your feed and where people might be able to find your coverage on Fans First Sports Network, but also on social media. You can plug that now. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you can find me just pretty much all over social media. It's Cardinals Update. Just search that, and then I should come up, be one of the first things that come up, just throughout everywhere. It's the same logo. It's the CU everywhere. And then for the podcast too, just everywhere on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, you could just search up the Cardinals Update podcast, and it should be right there. I haven't been able to record episodes lately, just because I've been sick the past couple of days. But hopefully I'll get an episode out tomorrow, for
Yeah.
Friday, and then yeah, we could just get everything going. And I really do appreciate you having me on,
No
and
problem.
just getting into the podcasting world and like the streaming world and stuff like that is really interesting, and just something that I would love to do. Just keep on talking about the Cardinals.
Yeah, man. Welcome to the team. Jesus, thanks for taking
Thank
the
you.
time. Good luck and enjoy the game. We'll talk soon. Take it easy.
All right, thank you, man.